Hello, I'm Henry.
And I'm Trey.
And welcome to Marvelous, a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast,
where we go through every show and every movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in order of release. And today we are talking about the Avengers.
We've finally done it! We've reached the climax of Phase 1. I'm so excited, Trey.
Me too, Henry. We are officially a universe now with the Avengers movie.
Oh yes, all of our heroes are finally together to kick some Loki butt.
Woo!
So let's go over the synopsis of this movie. Earth's mightiest heroes must come together and learn to fight as a team if they're going to stop the mischievous Loki and his alien army from enslaving humanity. So Trey, do you think that's a good synopsis of the movie?
I think that's probably the most accurate synopsis we've gotten.
I know, it's actually pretty well done, except it's just kind of boring. It doesn't really mention any of the characters specifically. I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Should it mention the characters specifically?
I don't know. It just felt a little bit lacking to me.
Earth's mightiest heroes, Henry. Earth's mightiest heroes.
Especially Thor, the mightiest of all of Earth's heroes.
Exactly.
Yeah, so finally we have a movie that has a lot of context, because this is all of the previous movies coming together. So for Iron Man, he had just finished being evaluated by S.H.I.E.L.D., and they have decided he is not fit to be an Avenger.
And the Incredible Hulk is on the run, in some foreign country.
Yes, and Thor, who I don't think was ever actually considered for the Avengers, is lost on Asgard with no way to return back to Earth.
And Loki, also from Thor, was the bad guy in Thor's movie and is now coming into this movie to seek vengeance for that.
And if you didn't know, Thor and Loki are brothers.
Thor and Loki are brothers. Spoilers. For previous movies.
And of course, Captain America has been unfrozen and is being reacclimated to the present day.
From being a capsicle.
Yes. And now everyone is coming together as a team, except not, because they all kind of hate each other at first.
Exactly. So, Henry, the very first time you saw this movie, what were your thoughts?
I was so hyped and excited. I thought they did such a good job of bringing everyone together, and it was so cool, and I liked it a lot.
Do you remember if you saw it opening weekend?
I mean, I saw it in theaters. I don't remember if it was the opening weekend, but probably.
Okay. Well,
You can say it. Be honest.
The first time that I saw this movie was after it had been in theaters for a really long time, and everyone was saying that it was the best movie ever. And I went to see it and was extremely let down because I did not think this was the best movie ever. I was like, this is a movie about a bunch of superheroes arguing with each other and extremely predictable. Okay.
Well, it might be worth mentioning for you that you hadn't seen any of the other movies except Iron Man, right? So this was your first time seeing most of these characters together.
I think I saw Hulk too.
Okay. Well, it's a different Hulk anyways.
Yes. So, yeah. I mean, I didn't know about any of these heroes, so yeah.
Yeah, because this movie does a good job of tying all these characters together. So I was always really curious what it would be like for someone to watch the Avengers without any previous knowledge. So I think that might be part of why you were more underwhelmed when you saw it. Also, any movie that's hyped up almost never lives up to expectations.
Oh, it was definitely the hype. It was just way too overhyped for me going into it, but I do think, yes, since I didn't have a strong attachment to any of the characters, and the only one I really knew about was Iron Man, it was definitely a kind of a letdown.
How are your opinions now?
Now I have much more appreciation for this movie. I mean, it's still like predictable in ways, and I do think it has some flaws, but I think it's a very well done spectacle of a film and a pretty solid and good first universe movie of bringing all these superheroes together and actually doing justice with it.
Yeah, and this was the first one of the movies that was a team-up movie, and all the team-up movies have a problem of getting neutered a bit and dumbed down for everyone to enjoy because these are the money makers that everyone goes to see. To be honest, now, I think it was still fantastic for what it was, the first universe-building movie, but I think it hasn't aged amazingly well compared to some of the other ones in Phase 1, like Iron Man and Captain America.
When you say aged well, like what do you mean by that?
What I mean is Iron Man and Captain America, to me, hold up about just as well as they did when they were new compared to the Avengers, which at the time I would have rated it much higher, but now I'm not as impressed by it.
Basically compared to the superhero movies today, you mean?
Yeah, especially because when we're recording this, both of us have just seen Thor Ragnarok twice. So Marvel has really gotten their formula down. And these new movies are more refined.
Yes.
Avengers was still trying to figure things out. Even though it did them very well, they still hadn't perfected having these various characters interact yet.
And I think it was definitely harder to watch Avengers right after Thor Ragnarok, because you go into that movie and you're like, every single detail I am blown away by. And in Avengers, it's more like, it's a calmer film. It's a more basic story.
Yeah. Plus, with Avengers, it's all these characters meeting each other for the first time. And that in itself is super, exciting and amazing. But now we've had so many movies with all these characters together. I would rather watch these relationships grow and evolve than watch them be created for the first time. I still like seeing it. It's still so funny and interesting to see how these characters met the first time. But now, it's just not as interesting to me.
I think that makes sense. So, should we get into the movie?
Oh, yes.
The movie begins by opening on some villainous dude who seems to be some sort of minion in the movie, I guess, of a bigger villain. And he's talking about how the Tesseract has awakened and how their ally knows its workings as the humans never will. And then we go flash to Earth where we have S.H.I.E.L.D.
Wait, can I just say first off the bat, I have no idea what they think. The Tesseract is just very confusing in this movie, what it's supposed to be able to do.
I agree.
And it awakening and stuff like that. Like, wouldn't it have awakened in Captain America? I don't know.
Which, didn't it awaken in Captain America? Because it did those things with Red Skull where it dissolved him. I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know what it means.
I'm also like, they say that Loki will know its workings as the humans never will, but is that because Thanos told Loki how to work it?
I don't know, and it was weird. Let's just get past this part.
Yeah. So we open on S.H.I.E.L.D. and everyone is evacuating the building because the Tesseract is acting up and giving off these energy signatures, I guess. And basically
Loki pops out and starts killing people and is spouting some nonsense about humans not wanting freedom and humans' true desires being to be enslaved or something.
Yes, though we do get a bit more exposition on Hawkeye, meaning we meet him for the second time, but for the first time with a name.
Yeah, looking at things from a distance.
Yeah.
Being all cool with his bow.
And he gets no justice at all because immediately Loki enslaves him.
Same thing with Eric Selvig.
We already know Eric Selvig. We don't know Hawkeye at all.
Okay, true.
But also, they seem to know quite a bit about the Tesseract because Hawkeye's like, isn't this a doorway to the other end of space? Like, the other end would be messing with it, which is why it's acting up.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I'm like, how the hell? Like, is this just from experimentation that they know all of this? Do they open portals? Because I feel like if they did, they wouldn't be able to resist going through them and exploring the universe.
I mean, they've had this thing for like 70 years. Also, how could you access the Tesseract from the other side? There's only one Tesseract.
I know. That's why like, what? But apparently Loki is able to do that because he opens it and gets teleported to Earth. It's so confusing. Why is this allowed?
Because the Mind Stone gave him memories about it or something? I don't... Yeah.
It's definitely confusing.
Yeah.
But my biggest thing is, if the humans know this, I'm amazed that they haven't opened portals and gone places.
They don't understand how it works.
But they somehow understand it enough to know that it's a doorway to the other end of space.
Yeah.
I don't... Okay.
Well, Loki pops in, starts murdering people, and starts enslaving people with his staff, which can mind control people.
And then the portal starts collapsing in on them, and they say it's 2 minutes till critical, so Loki basically steals the Tesseract, and then we get Maria Hill introduced as this badass agent who goes after him to try and get it back, and I think they do a pretty good introduction of her.
Yeah, I like her a lot.
She's really cool in this movie.
Yeah, not only is she really cool, she is not introduced as a love interest. She's not introduced in a sexual way. She's just a badass. And that's one thing I really like about her. And just one thing to say in general about this movie is this movie handles women very well in general.
Generally, yes.
Yeah. Black Widow is handled in this movie so much better than in Iron Man 2.
Definitely much better than an Iron Man 2. Though it's pains me to say that I don't think this movie even passes the Bechdel test.
Yeah. I don't think Black Widow and Maria Hill ever talk in this movie.
Yeah.
But Maria Hill doesn't really talk to anyone except for like Fury and Coulson, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe
Which
Tony Stark.
is really a problem of having so many men and not enough women, but yeah, so that's the problem with Phase 1.
Phase 1, no girls allowed. We joked about that in a different movie, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Phase 1 has almost no girls. Oh, it was the intro.
Oh, yeah.
They self-destruct the base to stop Loki and stop the collapsing Tesseract portal thingy. And
they don't self-destruct it.
I couldn't tell if it was self-destructed or exploding. I was so confused.
It looked like the Tesseract energy was colliding like on the ceiling, and it was about to reach critical levels, so they had to get out of there, and then eventually it like exploded the whole street and made everything fall down. And that's why Loki had to build, later on in the movie, he had to build a special device to open a portal that wouldn't cave in on itself.
Yep, and would be much larger.
Yes, and I had to rewatch this part of the movie like 3 times to understand what was happening, but...
Okay, well, I'm glad that you were the one that picked up all the details, because, yeah, I couldn't remember. But, yeah, it all explodes, S.H.I.E.L.D. is a total mess, and Fury hints that they need to summon the Avengers.
Indeed. And why does Thanos trust or need Loki for this? That's what bothers me about this movie, I think. Because Thanos could do this way easier himself, and it seems that Loki is the only one who wants war with the humans. Thanos just wants the stone. So he sends Loki to Earth through the portal to get the Tesseract, to hold it hostage from Thanos until he gets his war.
Trey, we haven't seen Thanos leave his chair.
I know that, but...
He doesn't leave his chair.
Just think like...
Okay, my understanding of this is he thinks it's under him. It's not even worth his time. It's an easy task. We have this weird go-getter Asgardian prince who wants to be recognized. Have him do it. Screw it. It'll be easy. If he messes up, I'll go get them both myself.
That's the point, though. The ease is like... So he's getting rid of his entire Chitauri army, pouring it into this little easy task, instead of just sending one of his minions to go grab the Tesseract and exit.
Yeah. Okay, this is my biggest flaw with the movie is the Chitauri and Thanos and all of that is just boring and doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So now that we've been negative enough about the beginning, let's talk about Black Widow and her finally showing some like serious personality in her scene in Russia. While she looks like she's a hostage, but she's actually trying to gather information from these Russian mobsters or whatever they are. And I love everything about how she acts in this scene.
This scene is such a better introduction than in Iron Man 2, and I really wish that they had just introduced her here, because we get way more information here than we ever did in that movie.
100% agree. And it just shows how, like, one of her specialties is pretending to be vulnerable, to have whoever she's being imprisoned by reveal information because they think that she can't escape. And then she escapes with no problem after Coulson just calls them casually. He's like, hey, we're going to bomb the building if you don't let me talk to Black Widow. And she's like, hey, I'm on a mission. It's just, I love everything about it.
Yeah, and then that entire fight scene with her when she just breaks out of the chair and just destroys them, it's just great. Though, I'm not even sure it should be a complaint, but the fact that it's like Barton is compromised is what gets her out of the chair. It bothers me a tad, but I think that's just because it feels like a love interest thing. But since it's not, it's just a friendship thing. Like, it shouldn't be.
But it kind of is. We know that these characters are super attached. We don't really know their relationship yet.
I mean, it pretty much gets established in all the movies that they're just friends. We don't know their history, but
at this time in Phase 1, a lot of people thought that they were more than friends, and I think they were reasonable to think that.
I agree, because it seems like they're in love.
Yeah. And Black Widow owes her life to Hawkeye. So even if it's not a love thing, he still means the world to her.
This is true, but we find out after this that it's not romantic.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So anyway, she escapes, and Coulson tells her to go after the big guy, which she thinks is Iron Man, which is hilarious. And then they mention it's the Hulk.
Yeah.
So something I wanted to mention about this is we've already had Selvig and Hawkeye, who were introduced in Thor. Now we've had Black Widow, who was introduced in Iron Man 2. And now we're going to Hulk, who was introduced in Hulk. We have already gathered characters from almost all the movies. Like, exclusively from those movies so far. Like, Fury and Coulson have already appeared and are in all of them.
Yes.
Essentially.
So then we go to the Hulk in Calcutta.
Which is weird, because last time we saw him, he was going to Canada, but it's been a year. Oh yeah, timeline placement. Black Widow says he hasn't had an incident in over a year. So, that means Avengers takes place in 2009 or 10, because Hulk took place in late 2008, early 2009. Woo! Yay. Timeline! I told you I'm going to keep a sharp eye on this.
Good. So, yeah, Black Widow lures him to the edge of the city by, I guess, paying off the little kid.
Oh, yeah. Bribing a child. Classic.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't know if you have anything to say about their conversation.
I like their first interaction. It's not super exciting or anything, but I like how it goes down. Though I find it really funny that they do surround the building with all those agents, because as we've seen in the Incredible Hulk movie, those agents would not have been able to take down the Hulk, and they know that.
Yeah. Also, the fact that Black Widow says, "Oh, well, S.H.I.E.L.D. never actually lost you. We've been keeping tabs on you the whole time and keeping, like, other interested parties off your scent." It seemed kind of weird to me.
I actually like that a lot, and I think it makes sense. Because at the end of the Hulk, they still thought he was dangerous, but they kind of respected him for saving the day. And they realized staying away from him will stop him from getting angry as much. That's kind of how I saw it, and I thought that's smart and interesting.
And, well, I guess with General Ross creating the Abomination, they probably realized that this guy shouldn't be allowed to get to the Hulk, so it makes sense that they wouldn't want him to.
Yeah.
I say creating the Abomination, that's, like, loose, like, he contributed.
Oh, yeah, he had almost nothing to do with the actual thing, because Mr. Blue did it.
Yeah, but anyways, the only thing in this scene that I don't quite understand the point of is when Bruce Banner yells at her, and then is like, "Oh, I just wanted to see what you do," and then they, like, cut away.
I mean, he has a really interesting relationship with Shield, and he wants to get the truth out of her. And fear worked ish.
Did it get the truth out of her?
She did pull out the gun, I think.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
I don't know.
That's why I'm like, okay, you wanted to see what she'd do. She pointed a gun at you. What good did this do? I don't...
Yeah.
Okay, sure, whatever.
Actually, one thing we should mention about this scene is this is the first introduction of Mark Ruffalo, and he's great at being the Hulk.
And that's actually a funny thing. The first time that I saw this movie, I did not think that Mark Ruffalo was a fit for the Hulk at all.
I agree. But he's grown on me so much.
Same. Because I had seen the previous Hulk movies, and I liked those versions of, or those actors in that role, actually. Or maybe it was just because they were the only ones I'd seen in it. But seeing Mark Ruffalo, it was just so different that I was like, he seems too gentle to be the Hulk. But now, I think he's actually a really good Hulk.
I agree. And I think it's perfect. And I think part of it is because in at least The Incredible Hulk, we've only seen Bruce Banner on the run. In this movie and beyond, we see Bruce Banner the scientist. And I think Mark Ruffalo does a much better job of Bruce Banner the scientist than Edward Norton, or I don't really remember the other guy.
I think it was Eric Bana.
I don't know who that is anyways.
But yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah. And we get the Science Bros.
Eventually.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. So we cut to Fury having a conversation with the World Security Council.
Where they assume Thor is alive. I have no idea why. There is no reason to think Thor is alive. He disappeared, said he was going to come back, and didn't. And now they've seen Loki, and they knew that's who he was trying to stop.
I guess. I mean, they are like gods to the humans, so I don't think it's hard to think that he wouldn't have died, but...
They have no good reason to assume it, is all I mean. But they seem so completely confident. And I think it's because the audience knows, so they just pretend that the council knows too, even though that's wrong.
All right. I have a question about the people. Was that Gideon Malik?
Yes. Yes, I believe he is.
That is good to know.
A lot of characters that are introduced in this movie are also in S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, and the guy in the World Security Council is one of them.
Yes.
I'm also wondering, like, who these World Security Council people are, because they are so, like...
They're just so dark and mysterious and want to nuke New York.
Seriously, like, who are you that you're just like, we'll just destroy a whole city because it might... I don't know.
Yeah, they're so ominous and weird. I don't believe they needed to be in the movie. I understand that they wanted some presence that said the Avengers are a bad idea, the Avengers are a bad idea, the Avengers are a bad idea, the whole movie, but it was really weird.
Well, their existence also created more pressure in the climax for Iron Man and with the missile towards New York and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So...
Anyways! The last character whose film hasn't been shown yet or related to yet, Captain America is back.
What about Iron Man?
Iron Man has been kind of referenced because Black Widow has shown up.
Okay.
Okay, whatever. Well, now finally, Captain America is back, and he keeps punching bags. And instead of getting a better punching bag, he just keeps breaking them and grabbing more. I like how he just has like a stack of 10 punching bags. Like, dude, get better punching bags. Come on.
Yeah. Also, I think it's interesting how this is the after credits scene from Captain America, but the dialogue has been changed. Like, it's the same, but it's different, which...
It's the same, but more.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get that that's necessary when you're, like, making a new movie, but it's also like, well, they're both canon, so what actually happened?
Yeah, and this has only been done a few times in the entire cinematic universe, which is neat.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So Fury tells him about the Tesseract and the threat, and Cap's like, sure.
One thing I love about this scene is when Fury mentions to Cap that he might be surprised by all the crazy stuff he might see. And Steve is like, I doubt anything will surprise me, and bets $10 on it.
Yeah.
So great. Because he loses.
The funny part is that it's not even anything big that surprises him. It's just like the shield helicarrier taking off.
What do you mean? Okay, for one, do you remember the hype of that scene? Okay, when it was new, I don't know. If I remember correctly, that wasn't in the trailers. The hype of the helicarrier was awesome. Actually, no, almost certainly was in the trailers, because that's like a third of the movie.
I have no idea what you're talking about, because I didn't care about any of that.
Okay, long story short, the helicarrier is cool, and a man who grew up during the time before World War II, that's incredible crazy technology.
And I understand that, but when they were talking, Fury was like talking about the Hulk and like things that he wouldn't understand in terms of like superheroes and the like. So the fact that
he is a superhero.
So the fact that he lost because of he walked onto the helicarrier is like, well, that's easy.
I disagree. But yeah, it is kind of funny that it wasn't a superhero.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Thor would have been a good example of something that would blow his mind.
Yeah, I also have to say, I probably don't have to say, but Captain America, just like, you can see all of his muscles bulging through all of his clothing in this movie.
Oh, really? I don't really pay attention to things like that.
I mean, I'm just like, okay, I do not remember seeing this much of you before, but I don't mind.
I'm sure you don't. Well, anyways, we cut away to Iron Man, who has his first scene underwater, I believe. His suits do everything! And now we know what Stark Industries has shifted their industry to. Clean energy, with the Stark Tower being the first clean energy tower prototype of their future company.
Which, no wonder I didn't realize that was established, because it's like, it's more assumed than talked about.
Yeah, it's kind of quickly walked over. It just, anything with Iron Man really stands out to me, because I love Iron Man.
Yeah.
And I'm also just interested in everything about the clean energy stuff. But something that's super weird about this scene is that S.H.I.E.L.D. hacks Jarvis. How? How did S.H.I.E.L.D. hack Jarvis to get into the building? I'm impressed.
Yeah, sure.
I also love how Tony is utterly convinced, quote unquote, that Agent Coulson's first name is Agent, and just keeps mentioning that the entire scene.
Yeah, it was funny.
And everything with him and Pepper is great, like the 12% of a moment jab.
I am probably not as into this scene as you are.
I love everything about Tony and Pepper, okay?
I feel like it established them, but I don't think it was impressive or anything like that.
I just like how I like everything about them, okay?
I understand.
But I'm sad that Pepper goes like to Washington with Coulson and then boop, she's gone for the rest of the movie other than like one phone call later on.
Yeah.
That she doesn't pick up.
Which is fine.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Iron Man has his homework, so we cut back to Captain America on a Quinjet with Coulson. And Coulson is so awkward and funny and talks about how I was watching you while you were sleeping.
I love how much he geeks out over Captain America.
I love it too. He is the biggest fanboy and is so starstruck. And he doesn't know what to do.
So we haven't actually discussed Coulson and our opinions of him in our other podcast. So can we actually talk about that now?
Sure. This is a good time to bring it up anyway, since this whole movie kind of centers around him for a bit.
Kind of, in an awkward way.
He is the glue that binds him together through death.
So, for those listening, I am not a big Coulson fan. I think it's mostly just the actor. Like, I don't like how he portrays him, and I every time he talks, I like cringe. But and I know everyone loves Coulson, and I don't really understand why. So that's kind of just me being like, why do people love Coulson? I don't like him like at all, but
I enjoy his strange charm. But now that he has an entire TV show based around him, I'm kind of over it. When it was just a few little cameos and then this movie, that was fine. Now, watching the Avengers, when again talking about how this movie hasn't aged as well as some other ones, Coulson isn't that fun to experience anymore, because I've had hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of Coulson. That's one thing about movie characters. They got to be more special because they only get a few hours once every few years.
That's the thing, though. I've never felt like Coulson was... I never felt like he stood out that much in the movies. Like, I still didn't know... Well, still, I hadn't seen a lot of the movies, but I didn't really know who he was, and he never stuck out to me in any of the movies except when he died in Avengers, and I'm like, oh, we have to care who this guy is, apparently.
Yeah. I know you didn't really care about him that much to begin with, but I used to like him a lot more, and now I'm less impressed by him. Just because I've just had too much.
I do have to say, though, in this movie, in The Avengers, Coulson I find to be at his most likable. Like, in this movie, I like him.
For sure. Especially all of his interactions with Captain America are just priceless.
Yeah. His geeking out over Cap is like what makes me like him in this movie, pretty much.
Yep.
Even though he kind of comes off as a creeper, which the first couple times I watched it, I was like, what is wrong with you?
He's trying his best.
Yeah. So now we flash to Loki and the minion of Thanos talking.
Is it a minion of Thanos or a leader of the Jatari? I don't know.
The way he talked made it seem like didn't he keep referencing like someone above him? I thought.
I think all the Jatari are below Thanos. I don't know anything about the Jatari. They're never really... I don't know. I don't really know them from the comics or anything, so...
I don't know. He seemed very much like a minion to me, like he was just a bridge to the greater power.
Yeah, also they were using the mind gem to have this interstellar communication, which doesn't make any sense.
No, they weren't.
Weren't they using the staff?
I thought Loki was just using his, what's it called? Astral projection.
Yeah, I don't really know if Loki has interstellar astral projection.
He does it all the time, though.
He does localized projections. He doesn't do interstellar ones. I don't think I've seen him do one farther than a mile away until this scene.
I am not sure because in Thor we do get the after credits scene of him in the mirror where he's astral projecting, but I don't know if he's actually on Earth yet.
That scene, I don't know if it's astral projecting or he's invisible or what the hell's going on or...
But since that was before this movie and he came to Earth in this movie, that suggests he wasn't actually there.
Good point. You're right.
So, I don't know. It's another thing of Loki's powers being... What are they?
Very, very, very confusing. The god of tricks indeed. Or mischief.
Yeah. But then we have this scene with Thanos where we find out that Loki's the one that wants the war. And he's holding the Tesseract hostage, essentially.
Yeah, and they make it seem like if Loki fails, Thanos will hunt Loki down.
Yes, and that... I'm like, he never...
Spoiler for the end of the movie. Loki fails. What a surprise. And then Thanos doesn't hunt him down. Huh.
They're like, weird. There will be nowhere in the universe that he can't find you. And it's like, he doesn't even move or do anything after he fails. Okay. Sure.
I think that has to do a lot with the fact that Phase 2 changed significantly. I believe they were going to use Thanos a lot more in Phase 2, but then they changed their mind and saved him for Phase 3.
Interesting. Is that true?
I'm pretty sure, but anyways, that's future stuff. So let's worry about this movie. So everyone is slowly arriving to the helicarrier, which for some reason I'm convinced is called the Valiant, but that's probably not true. So Captain America and Black Widow finally meet each other, and Black Widow makes a joke about if Coulson has asked him to sign his playing cards, which is great, because later we see that happen.
Yeah. And then Captain America also meets the Hulk.
Yep.
Which, to be honest, it's kind of funny how anticlimactic their meeting is. Like, all of them just come together super like, oh, hey, what's up?
Yeah, especially because, like, Banner was created trying to duplicate Captain America, which means, in a sense... Like, Bruce Banner spent years of his life trying to copy Captain America. You would think that Bruce Banner would be starstruck by Captain America.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I get, like, the key players that they make a bigger deal of meeting are just Tony and Thor, I guess.
I think Iron Man, or Tony, makes a much bigger impact than Thor when he enters, weirdly enough. They kind of accept Thor weirdly fast. If I do say so.
I would think the opposite, because Tony just flies in during a battle scene and Thor, like, flies in, steals Loki, attacks them, and they have a huge battle.
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about how once they're all together, Tony is doing a lot of the speaking compared to the others.
Okay.
Well, anyways, the helicarrier, which they didn't know was a helicarrier, takes flight, and Cap gives his $10 to Fury.
Yeah. This scene, I think, is... I think it's really funny because it's just like a ton of time spent with so many establishing shots just showing how like cool and impressive the machine that S.H.I.E.L.D. is, like how impressive that is.
Yeah, like how they have the flying battleship, they have the invisibility like plating, all this stuff that is super cool and was super cool the first time. But now that we've seen everything else in the MCU, I'm a little bit... It's just not as impressive anymore. It's so cute.
Yeah, I think it's just funny because they're like, look at all the employees and this whole big thing that S.H.I.E.L.D. is. I'm like, wow, they really wanted to sell S.H.I.E.L.D., I guess, as a cool thing.
Yeah. And it is really cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they do, like immediately after taking off, is mentioning that S.H.I.E.L.D. is hacking all of the cameras in the world, including everyone's phone cameras, to search for the Tesseract.
Yeah, I know.
Which, this was right when smartphones were still pretty new. But now, people would complain so much about having a moment like this in a movie, because that's a horrifying thought that we really have to worry about these days compared to back then. Like, back then, that seemed like a crazy science fiction thing. Now it feels real and scary.
Well, I think, like, as a premise, it's something that they touch back on later in the phases, so we'll get to that like in another movie, but I think it's cool that they established it here and they actually do circle back.
Yeah, but I just remember thinking, this isn't okay.
No, it's not. It's definitely not okay.
Well, anyway. Yeah. Well, one of the next things that happens is we cut to Coulson in the middle of asking Captain America for autographs for his cards. And he's nervously talking about how they're all limited edition and in pretty good condition.
And they're vintage.
He's so proud.
Yeah.
It's adorable. It's so cute.
And then we go to Loki attacking some concert hall.
I don't know what it is. I think it's a fancy gala of some sort because they needed to do like a retinal scan of some scientists from there to get the iridium that they need to finish the Tesseract portal machine thingy-mabobber because it makes antiprotons, which I don't know if that's true.
I have to say, never until this watch did I realize that they were there for an actual reason.
Yeah. I just remember rewatching it and being like, I have no idea why he's here.
I thought he was just there to like terrorize people and try to rule Earth, because he does do that too.
Yeah, I totally forgot.
It's interesting that he's trying to get like this guy's eye to get iridium, but yeah, anyways.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to mention about this scene and about Loki so far in the movie that we haven't really touched on is how distraught and like messed up he looks like. Loki looks like he's gone through hell. And also he's being way more direct and violent compared to his trickery and like using knives that he would normally do. It seems very uncharacteristic of Loki to me.
Because he's violent?
Not only because he's violent, because he's like so direct. He's so straightforward. He's not killing people with tricks. He's just straight up jumping at people and punching them and stabbing them and shooting them with a beam. It's just so simple.
Yeah.
It's more like how you would expect an evil Thor to act. Like, I hit you now. Ha!
I don't remember him punching people.
I think he does in the beginning. But either way, like, in this scene, instead of using some magic trickery to capture this scientist, he just grabs him in the middle of a gala and shoves a machine onto his eye to, like, steal it and maybe even teleport it with the Tesseract. I don't really know what was going on.
Yes, but I think... I mean, this whole movie is about Loki thinking that he's way superior to the humans, and he's so all-powerful that he has nothing to fear from them, and he just wants to rule them. And since all we know of his powers are that he has the power of illusions, and he has the power to basically shoot energy beams with his staff, I don't know. I think it makes sense.
I agree. It just stood out to me. Again, this was also, having seen his most recent movie very recently, it seems weird to see him act like that. It just threw me off.
Fair enough.
But yeah, then Loki goes outside and I wouldn't say captures, he holds a whole crowd hostage, kind of?
Yeah, and he tells them, like, kneel before me.
In English in Germany.
Are they in Germany?
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's why it's like a whole big thing when Captain America shows up in like the next 5 seconds. And he's like, hey, last time I was in Germany, it wasn't like this.
Yeah, he compares him to Hitler.
I think you mean Cap, or that old guy that stands up and says, there's always people like you.
No, I mean Cap compares Loki to Hitler.
Okay, I can't remember exactly what Cap says. But they start the fight. And then Iron Man pops up and playing cool music and being awesome.
So I do like that the old man like stands up when he's terrorizing the crowd and is like, we won't kneel to men like you. And when Loki tries to make an example of him, Cap pops in with a shield and bounces the energy beam back at him.
Yeah. Because Cap's whole thing is, he's the spirit of everyone who wishes they could fight.
Yes. And I feel like, I don't know if we should talk about how Loki's motivation seems really strange about, like, you humans, like, want to be subjugated. Is this not your natural state to be slaves to someone higher? Like, I don't know.
It's all weird. I feel like that's the thing. The story of the Avengers, like, the story of the villain and the enemies is really boring, but the story of the characters meeting each other is what's actually interesting. Everything with Loki's plans and his way of getting what he needs is just very strange. Like, for instance, he got the Tesseract. He had it. And he was under the support of a spacefaring super alien lord. Why didn't they just bring spaceships and pick him up?
That's exactly why I was saying it doesn't make sense why they used Loki in the first place, because they could have done that with anybody instead of causing a war.
Everything with the Chitauri, everything with this is just weird. But now we have Iron Man and Tony meet, casually.
Yeah, and this is the start of... I want to say I think Cap is very underutilized and in this movie and just not really done justice.
How so?
I think he very much stands out in the group as, like, all you see of his character is, oh, well, he's like the straight man that just everything needs to be done a certain way and...
Justice! Honor!
He's not that good. Like, compared to the others, he's very unimpressive in this movie. He doesn't seem to do much fight-wise until the last scene. I think he does get some good action sequences in, but in general, I don't think they do a good job of making him, like, as cool as the other Avengers.
I agree, and this is part of why I was concerned about having Captain America in the modern world. Like, I thought having him have his origin movie in World War II was good. I thought him being in Avengers was a good idea, but the next movie I was concerned because I didn't think they could do him justice. And in this movie, they didn't give me much hope that they would, because they kind of put him in the same ranks as Black Widow and Hawkeye.
Exactly.
Which I think made sense because Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor are so overwhelmingly strong compared to him. And he hasn't developed enough to fight other superpowered beings as proficiently. I don't know. I agree that they didn't do him justice, but I only agree now that I've seen him fight more.
I mean, same. At this point, I thought Captain America was lame, and it wasn't until his second movie that I was like, oh my god, he's actually really cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what a lot of people thought.
Yeah, which makes me sad, because now I'm like, you can do so much more. This movie does not do you justice. But tying into that idea is the fact that Iron Man's entrance really bothers me.
Because it's like so cool and overshadows Cap's like really good speech and everything.
And it's specifically like, oh well, I'm coming in to rescue Cap because look at how cool I am. I'm Iron Man.
Really quickly, we didn't really mention at the beginning of the movie when Iron Man's introduced how he comments on the fact that the Avengers thought he wasn't fit. and how they write it off as now they don't have time for options, they need him, or something like that. I can't remember the actual quote.
Yeah.
Because that's something that we talked about in Iron Man 1 and 2 of why they actually, or why Iron Man joined the Avengers, even though in his movies they said he wasn't a good fit.
Yeah, and it's really quick and glossed over. Like, you said I wasn't a good fit, and Coulson's just like, we don't have time for that. This isn't an initiative, or I don't know. This isn't a hypothetical anymore, or something like that.
Yeah, like, this is an emergency. It's war. Whatever.
Yeah.
So...
But yeah, Iron Man enters in a flurry of AC/DC and being all cool and rescuing Cap, to my great annoyance.
Yeah. Also, I enjoyed Black Widow piloting the Quinjet with a machine gun and stuff. That was cool.
Yes. I'm also not sure why this is Iron Man's entrance. I feel like, why wasn't he on board with them before? Why is he coming in now? It seems strange.
The timeline of the beginning is a little bit confusing also. Such as, how did they get to Germany so fast?
Yeah, we don't really know how much time has passed, I suppose.
I think we see the helicarrier in the daylight when they say, we found Loki, he's in Germany, or whatever. And then it was nighttime when they get to Loki, which is weird.
All right.
But I know the Quinjets are crazy super fast and whatever, who cares? And also Iron Man is crazy super fast. But anyways, Iron Man and Captain America and Black Widow capture Loki. It seems a little bit too easy. They're on their way back to the helicarrier. Iron Man and Cap are kind of going after each other.
I understand that Tony is, like, already resentful of Captain America because his dad, like, wouldn't shut up about him since he had a hand in creating him, and, like, what a great hero he was, I guess, or something to that extent, and always held Tony to some kind of standard. They make it sound like they held him to a standard because of Captain America, which seems kind of weird, but...
It was very strange, and it seemed a bit uncharacteristic. It was just necessary to make the characters have an antagonistic relationship in the beginning of the movie in order to have their alliance in the end be more substantial. I think the way that they should have interacted in the beginning should have been how Tony interacted with Hulk for the first time. How he was really curious and was, like, poking and prodding him to see what would happen. Like, more mild curiosity rather than just being a dick.
I agree, and this ties into another problem I have with this movie, is that I feel like a lot of the arguments between the Avengers are contrived.
Especially with Thor.
Yes.
He is so condescending of humans, which is so uncharacteristic of him, especially after Thor 1. And Thor, he was very, like, welcoming and kind to humans, and the whole point of his movie is that he, like, learned that it's okay to be weak. And, like, you could be a hero without power and stuff like that. And he learned to respect humans and everything about that. So him being such a jerk was weird and uncharacteristic of him.
And even in this movie, he tells Loki, like, you think you're above them? Like, no, like, they should be your equals and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think Thor is the most inconsistent character in the movie.
But that's why I don't like that he immediately just instigates Cap. Like, I immediately dislike you and hate you, and I just think it's dumb.
Yeah. Well, anyways, now that we've talked about Thor pops in. He jumps on top of this Quinjet, steals Loki away, and then everyone's like, what the hell just happened? And then Iron Man and Cap race after him, and there's a fight between Iron Man and Thor, which is awesome, I gotta say, because this is, like, the first real action of the movie, and I think this fight's really cool. And then Captain America jumps in to stop their fight, and he resists a blow from Thor, which is incredibly impressive, seeing as later on we could see that Thor can take down the Hulk. So that shield is amazing.
Yeah, which I'm not really sure why vibranium is, like, that strong against alien hammer powers.
I mean, basically, the idea is it resists everything. I don't know, man. It's the same thing with Thor's hammer. It's, like, supposed to be, like, completely unstoppable, and it's like the unstoppable force versus the immovable wall kind of situation.
Yeah.
Which it causes that giant crazy shockwave, and then everyone's like, all right, I think we're done fighting now.
We've skipped kind of an important bit, though.
Loki and Thor's conversation?
Yeah.
I didn't write anything about that, which is weird.
because we get Loki's little piece of exposition of explaining how Thor got there by saying, how much dark energy did the All-Father have to muster to conjure you here with the Bifrost gone? And it's like...
Which I don't understand what the hell that is, and they never talk about it again. And also at the end of the movie, when they use the Tesseract to magically teleport back to Asgard, that's really not well explained. How do they know how to magically control it that accurately?
I would agree, except it seems like they know a lot about the Tesseract, the Asgardians do.
Oh yeah, it is Odin's treasure. That is a good point.
Yeah.
And I guess Thor knew what was going on.
But yeah, I thought, I mean, I'm glad that they threw something in there of why the hell are you here? Because otherwise it's like...
I mean, it's the same thing with Iron Man. It's like, why the hell are you here? I thought you didn't want me. It's like, we need you. Okay, sure.
Yeah, it just completely erases all the consequences of Thor 1.
And Iron Man 2. Sort of.
Yeah, well, kinda.
Not as much.
Yeah, but... Which we'll get to when we get to Thor 2 as well, but... I mean, I don't think it's really a spoiler to say that the Bifrost is just, like, fixed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been a year at this point.
But in Thor 2, the Bifrost is just fixed, which, in addition with Avengers, like, he can just come to Earth anyway. It's like, there's really no consequences for Thor 1 and him destroying the Bifrost.
Yeah.
But anyways, we also get Loki's side of the story, which is really strange because he acts like he's the one who was betrayed instead of being the betrayer. And he's like, you threw me into the abyss. And that didn't happen.
It's like, dude, you let go.
Yeah. Like you jumped to your supposed death and everyone mourned you. And yet now you're like, they outcast me from Asgard and Thor threw me into the abyss and I was betrayed. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
This was your horrible plan that went wrong, which you should have known would go wrong if you're so smart.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they're trying to show how Loki is insane and just thinks that he was betrayed in this way, or what's happening here.
I think he's just totally going crazy right now, which is why they show him all messed up and, like, it looks like he's sleep deprived and dirty and disheveled. Disheveled, that's the word I wanted to say earlier.
Yeah, and he just decides to take his revenge on Thor's precious Earth by capturing it and waging war on it.
I mean, he was really salty because of that woman.
Oh my god. Also, it's just so weird how Iron Man tackles Thor out of that situation and just leaves Loki there.
Right?
I'm just like, so I guess he's just gonna sit there on that cliff while you guys have this 10-minute long fight.
To be fair, Iron Man was able to capture Loki pretty easily. So he probably thinks capturing Loki's easy. Capturing the man that can fly with a giant crazy hammer, less easy.
That seems flawed.
I agree. This is not one of the strong points of the movie.
Yeah, and then Loki did just chill up there waiting for them because they don't mention that they left him alone.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it also bothers me when Cap jumps in to stop them and he's like being the voice of reason and saying we're all on the same side. And he's just like, just put the hammer down. And then Thor takes that moment to freak out like,
you want me to put the hammer down? I'll put it down on your face.
I know.
Again, Thor is very not Thor in this movie.
All of their fights just feel very forced to me.
But it was cool. I love this scene. Except the logic is stupid, but everything about it is cool. I like Iron Man just grabbing Thor and shooting him off. And Loki's like, I'm listening. Because they were mid-conversation.
And I agree with this. I think the fights are cool. The logic bothers me.
Yeah. This is one thing about the movie. The story isn't great, but it's fun.
Exactly. That is exactly what I wanted to say at the beginning, actually, is that this movie's not great, like, for trying to look into its depth, but it's really just a fun watch of a movie, and it's fun to watch and rewatch.
Yeah. So anyways, we are back on the helicarrier. All the Avengers are assembled. Loki is in this jar prison thing that's meant for the Hulk. And everyone hates each other. Also, Thor mentions Loki being his brother and that he's not all that bad. Then Black Widow mentions that he's killed 80 people. And then he makes a joke of, he's adopted? And I like that.
Yeah, that's a joke I feel like was good the first time, though I don't know. I know it too much now.
I like that joke still. We have Banner and Stark finally meet, and now they're science bros, and they go analyze the staff together and hack all of S.H.I.E.L.D. with a button, because sure.
Before that happens, though, they ask Thor what Loki's plan is, and Thor somehow knows all of the details about Loki having a Chitauri army that's going to attack the Earth.
To be fair, he was on Asgard, who has Heimdall, and he knew that he went after Loki. Since you explained everything about how Thor has knowledge about the Tesseract because of Odin and Asgard, he probably knew everything about this plan in advance.
And that's what I was expecting you to say, because the only reason I can see for him knowing all of the details of Loki's plan is if Heimdall was watching all of it.
I'm only saying that because you mentioned Thor having knowledge about the Tesseract, which is how they were able to teleport home. I'm only thinking about that right now, but before I had no idea. I'm just like, whatever, they just want to get it out there and be done with it. That's fine with me.
I guess it just feels a little strange because the Chitauri and how powerful Thanos is, and the fact that Loki himself can mask himself from Heimdall's view. Like, the fact that Heimdall was able to see all of their entire plan seems weird.
We really don't know if it was Heimdall or not, though.
Yeah, which, if it wasn't, how does Thor know everything?
I don't know.
Yeah, anyways. Fury mentions how Loki's staff seems to be powered by the cube, which I'm guessing they're just taking from it having the same energy readings.
Yes, I believe that's why. And later on, the scepter or staff, whatever it is used to interact with it to open the portal. I don't know. This is one of those things where I don't think they knew what the staff was actually supposed to be until later.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Actually, they probably did, but it seems like in the movie that none of the characters have any idea what's going on. Like, you'd think Thor and Loki would know, but they act like they don't.
Does Loki act like he doesn't?
He acts like the scepter has power, not that the jewel within the scepter has power.
I guess so.
I think that's an important distinction.
So, for those listening, if you don't know, I don't consider it a spoiler, but the stone in the staff is the Mind Stone.
Yeah, the scepter has the Mind Stone in it, which is another Infinity Stone like the Tesseract, which is the Space Stone, which I don't think they've ever actually called it the Space Stone before.
They haven't.
Yeah, they just always call it the Tesseract. It's the same thing like the Aether is the other one.
Yeah. So, yeah, then Bruce and Tony geek out.
Yeah, and Tony stabs him to see if he'll Hulk out.
Why is he so intent on making the Hulk out?
I don't know. He's just being silly. I like everything. I like that scene because it's really goofy and it's kind of improv, like how Tony and Banner are eating blueberries because Tony's hid, or I shouldn't say Tony, Robert Downey Jr. hid them on set so he could eat while they were filming. And how he just like hands them over to Bruce Banner. Just cuz.
That's funny.
Yeah, but anyways, they don't trust S.H.I.E.L.D., and I think they're right to do so. So Tony hacks everything in S.H.I.E.L.D., and Cap, who initially is very opposed to the idea of S.H.I.E.L.D. being evil, decides to go on an investigation of his own and finds the Phase 2 weapons, which are basically the Hydra weapons from his movie that S.H.I.E.L.D. is making.
This part doesn't make any sense to me either. I'm sorry. I'm like picking this movie apart.
We both are.
Captain America's like, yo, like, follow orders. This is what Loki wants. He wants us in disarray so that like we fulfill his plan while all this crazy shit is going down. And then he does exactly the opposite of that and goes to search for what S.H.I.E.L.D. is hiding.
I don't remember exactly what Tony and Banner said to him, but something did convince him that there was something worth looking into. And he was right.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Black Widow confronts Loki also and tries to bargain for Hawkeye. Well,
love is for children. I owe him a debt.
Yeah. And then in this conversation, I'm always really confused why this is in there. She always says, I got red in my ledger and I'd like to wipe it out. But how is that related to this conversation?
She's trying to trick Loki into thinking that he could help her by erasing her history by destroying S.H.I.E.L.D., I think.
By destroying S.H.I.E.L.D., which is how she'd get Hawkeye back? or like she's bargaining for let's destroy Shield, destroy my history in the files, and then get Hawkeye back.
She wants both, I think.
But is that what they're talking about? Because it's really unclear.
I don't remember the details, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, because he says like what's in it for you or something, and she says that line, and I'm like, what does that have to do with getting Hawkeye back? I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, I like that it's similar to the Russia scene in the very beginning, how her tactic of getting information out of people is pretending to be very vulnerable because people underestimate her, and that's how she pulls information out. Although later in the movie, it's shown that this topic is something that is really meaningful to her when she has a conversation with Hawkeye.
So I actually disagree with what you just said for this scene. Because I don't know, they're showing like her deep emotions and like this backstory and stuff that would give her character and make her like more like a real person, and then immediately undo all of it by being like, oh, so Hulk is your play, okay, and like none of the emotion was real, it was just a deceit.
I think later on when she interacts with Hawkeye, they show that it actually is real and she was just working off her real emotions.
But she was like looking like she was about to cry, and then the second she finds out what his plan is, she's like, oh, Hulk, okay, bye.
Yeah, Master Spy. Taking advantage of her own history.
I feel like it erases some of her character instead of adding to it. Because it's just like, well, she's just this face that like you don't really know anything about her.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, now we're getting closer to the big action. So a lot of this whole scene is, there's like 20 minutes or so of the Avengers fighting amongst themselves and fighting against S.H.I.E.L.D., and no one really trusts anyone. And just as everyone is starting to fight and hate each other, and there's a huge fight, and Hulk might Hulk out, and now Stark has successfully hacked S.H.I.E.L.D., and Cap has successfully found the Phase 2 weapons, and Fury is under attack from all the Avengers also.
Shouldn't we say what they're fighting about?
Didn't we already really say? It's the Phase 2 weapons. It's that S.H.I.E.L.D. is making the same weapons that Hydra made, which S.H.I.E.L.D.'s excuse is, we're going to be attacked by aliens. Just look at Thor. Like, it's only going to get worse. We need to be prepared. Which is, I think that's reasonable. But some of the other things Shuri does in this movie, I think, are more questionable.
Yeah. I also think it's really funny, though, that Tony's like, oh, a nuclear deterrent will calm everything down, because
He did the same thing.
Exactly. His entire company was about making weapons.
To be fair, I mean, his opinion on that changed, but he is now the nuclear deterrent.
Yeah. It's just, it's interesting and seems hypocritical and strange to put that comment on him, but yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, what I was just about to say is Hawkeye and his team of brainwashed S.H.I.E.L.D. agents invade, and Hawkeye uses an arrow to explode one of the entire engines of the helicarrier. Look at him and his bow. I think this is the first shot he ever fires.
I think so.
Yeah, because in the very first scene, he shoots Fury point blank, which doesn't kill Fury, which is kind of stupid because Hawkeye's whole thing is being an expert marksman, and you'd really think Hawkeye would easily kill him in one shot, especially point blank.
Oh, I forgot to mention something from the initial scene. Is Loki supposed to be bulletproof? Because he gets shot too, and all the bullets just bounce off him.
Yeah, I think Asgardians are unaffected by Earth weapons.
What?
Yeah.
So Asgardian weapons are just supposed to be totally different, that they can get stabbed super easily, but Earth weapons are like, bullets will not penetrate their skin?
Asgardian weapons and blades are both made of better weapons and wielded by people who have so much more strength that they can pierce and stab other Asgardians. Whereas human weapons are weak, and also like melee ones or like swords, they're just not being wielded by people strong enough to actually impale them, is my understanding.
If that's true, then I mean, I've been missing a lot of information, because I had no idea that Asgardians were bulletproof and impervious to weapons, like from Earth.
I think that's what the Phase 2 weapons are for. That's the whole point.
That's just interesting.
Yeah. Well, anyways, this scene, at the climax of their fight, Hulk mentions that he tried to kill himself with a gun, but he spat out the bullet as the Hulk.
Also, he grabs Loki's scepter with the Mind Stone while he's doing that, and I'm really not sure why.
Yeah, it's never really explained.
Yeah, that's what I always thought was like part of Loki's plan, like something to do with the scepter, because when they fight, he's like drawn to it and picks it up, but it never goes anywhere.
Yeah, that's really weird. But he does Hulk out.
He does Hulk out.
And starts chasing Black Widow, and then Thor saves her. And basically, there's just a lot of action now. So, Hulk versus Thor is pretty cool to see. Black Widow being chased by Hulk, I don't think so.
Yeah.
A lot of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents casually do some cool things, like Coulson, Maria Hill, and Fury.
And seeing Black Widow versus Hawkeye was cool, and her just taking him out.
Yeah, that was a really cool fight. Also, Iron Man and Cap teaming up to restart the engine, which we have a few jokes about Cap not understanding technology, which is funny.
Yeah, it was an interesting use of the time.
Yeah, and Loki traps Thor in the jar by an illusion, because of course he did. And I love how he's like, are you ever not going to fall for that?
This is exactly what I mean when I say that Thor seems more like a brutish warrior in these earlier movies.
Yeah, well, to be fair, everything about Thor was really uncharacteristic in this movie.
I guess. In the middle of this fight, Loki uses an illusion to act like he's going to drop Thor to Earth, and Coulson stops him with a gun, which seems cool, but then we find out that Loki's actually an illusion, and the real Loki stabs Coulson through the back, right before Coulson shoots him with the gun.
Based off the Destroyer, which is the most effective shot any human gets on him, or non-superpowered human, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what that does.
Yeah. I mean, I liked that it was... This is the first of many shots with Loki where he's asserting how superior he is and, like, trying to be all proud and, like, you can't hurt me, and then they easily are just like,
nope.
Like, prove him wrong. Yes.
And Thor in the crazy jar thing gets dropped. And he does break out of the jar before it hits the ground, so he survives. Even though he probably would have survived either way. The Hulk also, like, jumps off the helicarrier onto, like, a jet that's being used to stop the Hulk, which is stupid. And then he falls off the helicarrier also. All casual, like.
What are you talking about?
The Hulk jumps off a jet and jumps out of the helicarrier onto a jet that was shooting at him from the outside.
Yeah.
And then he rips out the pilot and the jet's crashing down. So he just falls.
Yeah, that was funny.
Because it's just Hulk going crazy.
Oh, yeah. I do think Thor's scene of escaping the cell was actually pretty cool, though.
It was cool, but I think he would have survived anyways. Because he's full-powered Thor then.
Perhaps. It's a little unclear.
Also, if he just threw his hammer up, probably could have just made the thing fly.
I don't know, Henry.
It's not that heavy.
None of these powers really have been explained or make sense.
Iron Man was also damaged in this fight. He got really busted up by the propellers of the helicarrier because Captain America wasn't able to slow it down in time because he was distracted with S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. By the way, in this scene, Captain America uses a gun.
Cool.
Which is just something that I remember us talking about in his movie. And Loki escapes via Quinjet.
So then also we have Coulson's last conversation to Loki where he's like, you're going to lose because you lack conviction, before he fires the gun at him. But they get the helicarrier flying and Loki escapes. And then Coulson dies just as he tells Fury in a pretty sacrificial way. He's like, this was never going to work if they didn't have something to... And then he dies. So... At least he has accepted the burden of his death and what it will mean for them.
Yeah, even though that was kind of neutered by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which, by the way, for those who aren't really aware, the movies kind of pretend Coulson is still dead and don't acknowledge the fact that he has his own TV show now. And I think that would have been better for the entire universe if Coulson stayed dead, but whatever.
I don't know if you can say they pretend that he's still dead. They just don't acknowledge that he's alive.
Sure. I could say more about that, but it would spoil S.H.I.E.L.D. a lot, so I won't.
I agree. Coulson shouldn't have come back.
Yeah. So Fury manipulates how the Avengers, well, the remaining Avengers hear about Coulson's death, where instead of just saying that Coulson died, he also shows Fury's collection of the Captain America trading cards covered in blood, which he uses to show Coulson's faith in all the Avengers and the Avengers Initiative and what it means. So he uses a lie to convince the Avengers to work together.
And it's a lie because the cards were actually in Coulson's locker, and I guess he like dipped them in Coulson's blood and threw them at
Yeah. It seemed a little bit unnecessary and really sketchy. Because right now, Fury is trying to be so honest about why they made the Phase 2 weapons. And for him to deceive the Avengers right here is just strange. And I don't like it. It just feels kind of, I don't know, evil?
I can understand the motivation because they do need the push, but I also don't think it was necessary to have the cards because Coulson's already dead.
Yeah, like it was an act of desperation, but
it's a little weird.
Yeah, it's kind of cruel and abusive of Coulson's memory.
Also, I never thought about the fact that he's only talking to Iron Man and Captain America right now.
And Black Widow. Wait, actually, no, Black Widow is with Hawkeye in like the med bay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just those two.
To be fair, they're the main two.
I guess, but it's just kind of funny because the other Avengers aren't actually bonded by Coulson's death. It's just these two.
Yeah, and then like they're so convinced that the other Avengers are just going to pop up, especially Tony.
That's what's so weird because like
they didn't know, or did they know to go to New York yet?
No.
Actually, I think they did. They just didn't know that they were at Tony's tower.
No, because Bruce Banner is just like out somewhere naked after being the Hulk. And I guess he just walks up to, you know, where the big scene goes down in New York.
He like, I'm here for motorcycle and drives over.
Yeah. It's really strange.
Thor, sure, you could fly over.
Yeah, but anyways, that's later on, so
it's not that much later on. The Avengers are now finally beginning to accept their responsibility, and they kind of sneak out of the helicarrier. Though, actually, I guess we should talk about Hawkeye and Black Widow scene.
That's what I was going to.
There we go.
So we cut to Clint waking up from his mind control and fight with Widow.
Wow, I don't think either of us have said Clint Barton the whole time. We've only said Hawkeye.
Well, now we've said it.
Yeah. Woo!
And he asks, well, so first off, this is the first we actually see of Hawkeye not brainwashed. I feel like that's worth mentioning.
The first time that he's talking and not just saying, I like to watch from a distance and carrying a crossbow.
Yeah.
And talking about missions and stuff. It's the first time you see him as like a human.
Exactly.
Not a secret agent man.
And he asks Black Widow why she wants to fight as a soldier when she's a spy. And again, here she says, I got red in my ledger and I'd like to wipe it out. And this comment confuses me again because has she done something new for this red? Because she's had this red all along and she's been a spy working for S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to wipe it out, I thought. But now she's like, I want to be a soldier now to wipe it out.
I think she constantly is trying to do as good as she can to always be pushing against the bad things she's done in the past. And for most of the MCU, this has been her plot. I want to make up for the bad deeds in my past.
And I get that. I guess it just seems like her comment here is about like some new kind of red. Like she now has to do this to wipe it out.
To me, what it was, sorry for cutting you off. To me, what this meant was the story that she was telling Loki actually had a lot of truth behind it. And the feelings that we saw there were real. She was just taking advantage of them to get information out of Loki, which is what I was trying to say before.
But that story's been true the whole time. That's why she's a spy for S.H.I.E.L.D. in general.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay.
I hope that didn't seem rude. I'm just saying this is kind of odd.
Indeed.
And now Hawkeye is part of the Avengers, I guess. Woo!
Yeah.
I guess they had all of his special arrows just sitting around on the Quinjet, on the helicarrier somewhere.
Yeah?
I'd never thought about that until this very moment. That's hilarious. Where do they have all of his magic arrows? Does he just have one in like every Quinjet? Like a whole quiver of special super arrows? Or maybe he's not the only guy in S.H.I.E.L.D. who uses bows.
Maybe he went to suit up like Tony.
No, I think they went on the Quinjet straight to New York.
Okay.
Which, speaking of which, when they did that, Tony arrives first with a broken Iron Man suit. I'm impressed.
Before we get there. Okay, so we have a scene with Tony and Steve talking about Coulson's death, and Tony's basically all mad at Coulson for like going up against him because, you know, he's sad he's dead.
Oh yeah, that whole scene.
But this is also the scene where he figures out what Loki's plan is, and he's like, he made it personal. Like, he wanted us to come after him. He wants a public fight against us, and that's when he realizes that he wants to do it on a tower plastered with his name on it, or whatever.
And he said, oh yeah, my tower with my name plastered over it, with a crazy huge power source that he needs.
Which, this just goes back to the incredibly flawed plan of Loki. Like, why? Okay.
Like, how else would he have made the portal if Stark Tower didn't exist?
No, I'm talking about his plan is to make the Avengers personally angry so that they come after him. But before Thor comes to Earth, Thor had never interacted with these superheroes. So why would he be going after the Avengers in the first place? Why would he want them to come after him?
I think Loki made this part of his plan after he had brainwashed a whole ton of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and learned all about the Avengers. That's why Loki had so much knowledge about all of them individually in advance. All the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents he captured told him.
But he could literally have probably walked through the portal and gained control of the Earth pretty easily if he hadn't bonded them together and tried to make it personal to make them attack him to start a war. And I know he wants a war, but I don't know. I don't know why.
Well, yeah. And it's also weird because he could have, once he created the portal, he could have taken one of the Jatari scooters and flown back to Thanos and dropped off the Tesseract, then came back down. But it was his deal with Thanos to use his army to conquer Earth. I don't know. Story is weird.
It is weird. It just struck me as very strange that he like singled out the Avengers and then banded them together to fight against him to make a war when he could have just enslaved the Earth easier without it.
Loki's going mad, man.
Anyways, everybody suits up, and also they show Thor on Earth unable to lift his hammer. I don't know if you noticed that. Not unable to lift his hammer, but he tries to summon it to him and it doesn't move.
I think he's just like so like, I don't want to say distraught since that's how I was describing Loki. He's just so defeated. I don't know. He does get it a second later.
Well, that's the thing. I was wondering if that was supposed to be like his actions have not been worthy, like as of this moment.
Maybe. I've never thought about it that way. I just thought he was so shaken. Shaken is a good word. That's what I was looking for.
But then they show like the other Avengers coming to terms and bonding over Coulson's death. And then they just flash back to Thor, and like immediately the next thing you see after the others are worthy is that Thor picks up the hammer. And I'm like, if that's what this is supposed to be communicating, it's not done very well because we get literally two scenes.
I agree, because I had no idea that might even. I'd never thought about it that way. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't.
But then if it wasn't, it's also poorly communicated because what's the point of this?
Yeah. Well, shall we get to New York?
Let me check if I have anything else to say first.
I did want to talk about how Fury didn't send the Avengers. Hawkeye, Iron Man, Black Widow, and Cap like steal a Quinjet and like stealthily go away. And Fury is like, haha, that was my plan all along.
Yeah, and they do purposefully say like, we're not doing this for Fury's plan, like, but this needs to be done.
Yeah. So it's like, cool. Like, I get it. You made them inspired to fight the enemy and you made them inspired to work together, but all of it's just kind of weird.
Yep. So then the next thing we see is Tony getting to his own building.
Using his cool tech to disarm his suit.
Yep. And confronting Loki while... I mean, is the whole purpose of this scene just to get the suit?
Tony needed to get a new suit. they didn't know Loki would literally just be standing on the building, even though it was likely. I mean, he needed to get his drink and call the staff the glow stick of destiny.
It's still pretty ballsy that he's like, oh, Loki's in my building where I need to get my suit, so I guess I'll just go in and talk to him and get it.
Yeah, also, again, Tony's so confident Banner will show up. And I like how he says to Loki, not a great plan. Even though his plan is not a great plan.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Just walk in and expect that without a suit and expect the crazy alien menace to just spare you?
I do like that he calls out Loki on having a bad plan, though.
I agree. But his plan is just as bad, almost.
So Loki tries to use the mind gem on Tony, and he can't because of Tony's like metal thing next to his heart, which
his arc reactor.
Yeah, which just makes me question, like, is the Mind Stone, does it infect through the heart? Because
I think it needs to touch your body. And I think he's just like, what do I do? Maybe I should move it a little bit to the right.
That's why I had the assumption that it had to go through the heart, though, because if all he had to do was move it to the right, that would be
I don't
silly.
understand. I think the entire reason why he was poking people in the middle of the chest this whole movie was for this scene. Because this is the mind gem. It should have been touching their head.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, is it through the heart? Is this just for humor? This is, okay, confusing.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even assume alien biology is all the same anyways. But it's weird. It's real weird.
But I also, I wanted to mention how, remember in Iron Man 2 when they thought the suit in the briefcase was impressive?
Yes.
And then the next thing we get is his entire suit flying out.
That's so cool. Are we ready for action?
Yes.
Yes. So Mark 7 is engaged. Loki like throws Tony out the building or something like that. And Tony's suit that he had just been setting up with his wristbands and stuff while hiding behind his bar, while tricking Loki into thinking he was just pouring drinks behind the bar. His suit flies up to him and grabs onto him, and he fully assembles right then and there before falling to the ground. And right then, the portal opens up to the sky, and the Chitauri flow down and begin to invade Earth, and devastation spreads throughout New York City. All of the Avengers, one by one, begin to assemble. Captain America, Hawkeye, and Black Widow appear in a Quinjet. Very soon after, Thor appears to fight Loki. And I could just skip to... A lot of fighting begins, and then Bruce Banner appears as well. And right before they begin a lot of their fighting all together, there's that very, very famous spiral shot of all of them being prepared to fight together as one, as the Avengers.
Yeah, it's a really great shot. And then I also really like how that scene also brings us the first time that we hear the Avengers theme.
It's not the first time. I think they briefly play it a little bit in the beginning, I think, when they say we need to assemble the Avengers.
Are you sure about that?
I think so.
Okay, this seemed like the introduction of the theme to me, so I would have to double check that.
I think, okay, it's the same song, but it's like the epic part of the song is being played for the first time, I think, maybe?
Okay.
But the beginning of the song begins in the beginning of the movie.
But we get their first epic theme song during the epic battle as they're assembled.
Yeah. So, I feel like all of the action in this fight and this sequence, this like half an hour of the movie, is incredible. And there's giant space whales that the Hulk can one-shot and super punches. There's aliens and scooters, which are nondescript villains, which they're not the most exciting thing in the world, but it allows us to have a lot of really cool fights and combinations of Thor slamming down on Captain America's hammer to make a shockwave again, or Tony using his beam at the shield to spread it around. Speaking of which, Captain America is part of a lot of the combo attacks in this movie. Or like Captain America launching Black Widow up onto one of the space scooters. It's a lot like Budapest, you know?
I definitely think it's worth noting that even though the combatants aren't very exciting, they're just like swarms of aliens that they're fighting, the action in this sequence is very well done, and it's like it's pretty much the best scene we've gotten, I think.
Yeah, it's by far the best action we've gotten in the MCU so far. I will say some of the effects are a little awkward and dated. Like, a few things stand out, but it's still super impressive, and it's just really great to see the characters fight together. Especially that one incredible shot that is continuous, going to all the Avengers fighting together.
Also, did you notice the actor that shows up that was in Agent Carter?
That blonde girl.
No, the cop.
Did that cop show up in Agent Carter?
One of the cops is one of the main characters on Agent Carter, which he's not the same character at all, but he's played by the same actor, which I think is really funny.
Oh, I didn't notice that at all. But I was a lot more focused on the Avengers then.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the banter that the characters have while this whole scene's going on. Like how Iron Man leads one of the Leviathans to the rest of the Avengers, and he's like, "Hey, I'm bringing the party to you." And Black Widow's like, "I don't see how this is a party." And like Black Widow and Hawkeye fighting together, and Black Widow saying, "Oh, it's just like Budapest." And Hawkeye's like, "You and I remember Budapest a lot differently." And
Yeah.
Hulk, smash. And then he just jumps out on the building and just destroys a whole bunch of Tatari. Like, all of these tiny interactions are wonderful.
Which I also think it's worth saying that apparently Hulk can channel his anger now in this part of the movie.
Well, at the end of The Incredible Hulk, he was learning to control it.
No.
Yes, he was. That was the whole thing with his eyes turning green and stuff.
I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm saying everything in this movie so far has completely contradicted that ending because he's had no control over the Hulk at all. He attacked all of his friends the first time he hulked out, and all of a sudden he hulks out now, and he has complete control and can channel it against only the enemy.
He does punch Thor.
Yes, he does.
Which is also really funny.
It is funny.
Yeah, again, I hardly even consider the Hulk movie canon, so whatever.
But again, that's why I wasn't going to mention it, but without the Hulk movie, in this movie alone, he can't control it at all at first, and then in this last fight scene, all of a sudden, he can completely channel it to the right enemy.
Yeah. It is a little weird. One other thing that's a little bit weird about this whole scene is why Tony lets Cap take command. Tony seems like he's already the leader of the group. Like, I understand Cap has a little bit more battle experience with leading an army.
I feel like that's why.
Yeah, I understand that the characters now trust each other a little bit more, but I feel like Tony would have been the more natural leader at this point.
I think Cap has way more battle experience to call the shots, and Tony's never dealt with that kind of fight.
But he's also more intelligent, and I think he knows a little bit. I don't know. They both know, I guess, about the same about the other characters.
Like, I would agree that Tony would probably be the natural leader, but at the same time, I think they wanted to give Captain America something more to do because he seems so lame compared to the others in this movie.
Agreed.
And B, he does have a lot more battle experience and experience giving orders than Tony does.
That's true. Cap is a very good leader, and Tony is sometimes hard to work with.
Indeed.
So, anyways, after that amazing shot of all the Avengers working together so well, suddenly they're losing the fight, and it's kind of weird. It doesn't really feel right.
They're losing the fight?
Yeah, like suddenly they start all losing, and then the council's like, "Hey, why don't we nuke them?"
I don't think they were ever losing. I think they were just like we're fighting, but they just keep coming like endlessly through that portal.
They showed a lot of scenes of like Hawkeye running out of arrows, and then like Black Widow and some of the other characters getting surrounded. Like, I think you're right. They keep coming, but they keep coming in a way that they're getting exhausted and beginning to lose and run out of energy and losing momentum.
Okay.
And that's when the council's like, "Hey, look, Fury, your plan was stupid and is failing. We need to stop this alien invasion now. The only solution we can think of is nuking New York City." For one, I don't think anyone in their right mind would ever try to nuke New York. Because there is no, even if you think that it's a worthy sacrifice because it'll protect all of Earth, there's no guarantee that'll stop the portal and kill all the aliens.
And I think that's my biggest issue with it too, is that what the hell is a missile blowing up New York going to do for this alien portal?
Yeah. And it also is interesting to see who is this council that is able to easily approve without talking to the president or anyone. Hey, let's nuke New York.
I know.
This didn't seem necessary, except for having the climax of the battle being Iron Man catching the missile and driving it up the portal to the Jatari fleet in space on the other side of the portal to make it go boom, and then it was one of those weird hive mind alien shenanigans where they all die, which is a very boring end, if in my humble opinion, because everyone knows how humble I am, Trey. Don't you know how humble I am?
Sure, Henry.
So humble.
To be devil's advocate, though, maybe the missile would blow up the Stark Tower, which is what the Tesseract is on, so therefore it would get knocked down and close the portal?
You don't need a nuke, though.
Yeah.
There are regular bombs.
This is true.
The whole arc reactor technology is known to be pretty unstable. If you shot the arc reactor with a normal gun, it would probably break.
These are all true statements.
Also, the portal was self-sustaining at that point.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
But they close it by
using the scepter and poking it. They had to use the scepter instead of powering down the building because it was self-sustaining.
No, but I'm not saying that the building was powering it. I'm saying that the building was positioning it. So if you destroy the building and it comes crashing down, would that affect the portal? I don't know.
That's a good thing. What if they just tilted it? Yeah, which, by the way, like, the scepter being the thing that can stop it was weird. Selvig saying, oh yeah, even though I was 100% mind controlled, I planned the scepter that I know nothing about to stop
I subconsciously...
What?
I subconsciously built in a stop.
Yeah, backdoor. Shut up, Selvig, no one cares.
Well, it's necessary for the plot, so...
It wasn't. That didn't need to happen how it did.
I do think it's cool getting to see Fury's, rejection of the Council's orders, though.
Yeah, and how he uses a rocket launcher to shoot down the plane that he thinks is leaving with the nuke.
Yeah.
I also like that the Council was so prepared that they expected him to do that and launch 2 jets.
Seriously. Just like, wow. But, yeah, we also get more moments of Loki, trying to look all superior and getting his ass handed to him, when Hulk comes in and he's like, no, you are mortals, that is enough, I am a god, and
Hulk just grabs him and smash, 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 puny god.
Exactly.
That's such a great moment. I also like that there's 5 minutes after that scene where Iron Man is grabbing the nuke and stuff, so I guess Loki was just laying there in shock the whole time.
I know.
Yeah, because I think Hulk did that, then ran away, and then his moment of being overwhelmed by the Jatari is him on some building where 30 Jatari are shooting beams at him all at once.
Wait, what?
I vividly remember the scene of Hulk on the top of a building with 30 Jatari surrounding him and all shooting lasers at him at once. Because that was part of the scene of all the Avengers slowly starting to lose, even though that wouldn't take out the Hulk. I guess It would slow him down, though.
Yeah, so the missile comes in, and you already talked about how Iron Man decides to sacrifice himself.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't say that. Tony didn't think he would make it back, and almost didn't. And, he's having a really heart-wrenching emotional moment as he's doing it, where he tries to call Pepper, the only person in the world he loves, really. And Pepper doesn't answer.
Which, okay, if she's watching that news clip of Iron Man fighting in this battle and about, this crazy battle, I feel like she would be waiting by her phone, because he can call her from his suit, and she knows that.
I agree, except for the fact that she probably doesn't think he's going to call her in mid-combat.
Probably. But...
And I don't think she really knew what was going on with Iron Man and the missile yet.
Okay, I'll accept your argument.
Thank you. You're so gracious.
But also, I don't know if you noticed, but this was in direct correlation to something Captain America said to Iron Man earlier in the movie, because he says directly to him, "You're selfish. You're not the one to make the sacrifice play." And then at the end of the movie, he makes the sacrifice play.
Yeah, and I honestly never thought about that. And a lot of the fighting between Iron Man and Cap before is, you're nothing without your suit. And this shows that he is brave and courageous and a hero, willing to sacrifice himself for everyone.
Yeah, which I do like the depth and development of Iron Man, but again, I feel like this movie is just saying, like, see, Iron Man is the coolest.
He is, though, in this movie. Like, come on, in phase 1, Iron Man is the coolest.
It is, but that's because this movie is specifically building him up to be the coolest.
Yeah, well, phase 2 does a great job of making the other Avengers start to be cooler. Mainly
Agreed.
Captain America. But anyways, Tony does fall back through the portal right before it closes, and he is unconscious, and they don't realize it at first because they just figured he's flying to the ground, but he's actually falling to the ground, and the Hulk catches him and scares him awake. And they really casually are just like, or Iron Man's like, "Hey, so did we won?" And he's like, "Yeah, cool, woo, yeah, let's hang out, let's get some shawarma, I guess." It's like nice and casual instead of like triumphant and ridiculous, which I love.
Honestly, this line totally, like, was not something that stuck in my brain the first time that I watched it, because he's just like, have you guys tried shawarma? Like, I don't know, it just seems so random and like something he would just throw out. And because of that, the end credits scene went completely over my head, and I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah, because it makes sense. Like, this was something they pushed for like a week before the movie came out or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, they added in at the last minute. Like how Captain America had to position his head and his hand like over his face because he had a beard for some other movie at the time and stuff like that.
Yeah. Which I don't know if this is the reason why, but I've never thought the end credit scene was funny, and I don't know if it's just because I missed the joke the first time and had to look up what.
Did he like it this time?
Well, I've always known now, so it's like the joke is ruined. So I'm the only person on the face of the planet, I think, that didn't think the end scene was funny. But anyways, Tony says we should go for something about shawarma. And then Loki awakes to all the Avengers there and Hawkeye pointing an arrow at him. Which,
I like how Hawkeye's in the front of the scene.
I agree, though since you've now told me that he's bulletproof, it's like this arrow won't do anything anyway.
No. I mean, Hawkeye has crazy bow and arrows, though.
It's still Earth technology.
It would still hurt him a lot. It's not like a bullet. He has like explosives and all sorts of crazy crap. Also, it's Hawkeye. Just because he's a superhero, his weapons will affect Loki.
Okay.
Although Loki did catch one of his arrows while not paying attention, so who really knows?
Yeah, but then the arrow blew up and blew him into the building.
Oh yeah, good point. Well, after this scene, we kind of rush through the end, which is the Council and Fury fighting about the Avengers, how Fury's like, haha, I told you it would work, and the Council's like, okay, sure, but where are the Avengers now? And Fury's like, they're doing whatever, they earned a vacation. It's strange. It seems kind of uncharacteristic of Fury to not watch after them, because if he was pure and honest, I would say that it would make sense. But since he already deceived the Avengers into gathering, I don't think he would have acted this way. It just seemed like a weird way to give a happy end to the movie for the characters, the heroes.
I suppose I agree, though the Council also gives voice to, like, the Earth's concerns by saying, like, you let basically Thor take both the Tesseract and the war criminal who should be answering to his crimes.
Yeah, which is kind of reasonable, actually.
It is, but not for the Earth
Taking the
people who want...
Tesseract is fine for Thor. Taking Loki is understandable.
Yeah.
That they're conflicted.
To us.
Yes. Like, I could understand. The Council obviously wants to keep the Tesseract because they want insurance against alien invasions.
And they also want Loki to be...
punished for his crimes of
exactly
killing, like... I don't remember what the kill count for the Battle of New York is. I know it's covered in Civil War. But he had already killed almost like 100 people.
Yeah.
Oh, side note, the people that invaded the helicarrier were like mind-controlled shield agents who shield other shield agents who weren't mind-controlled, and the heroes killed kind of casually. They never really go over in the helicarrier invasion, the heroes and shield kill mind-controlled soldiers that in theory are just like good shield agents.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And that's never really covered.
No.
Hawkeye is like, oh my god, I killed people. And Black Widow's like, nah. It wasn't you. You were under control. It's fine.
They also completely ignore the fact that they have other shield agents out there when Black Widow is like, oh yeah, or like she's talking to Thor and then they're like, he has Selvig and also one of our own, Hawkeye. When in the beginning he mind controlled like 10 agents.
Tons of people, yeah.
I'm like, I guess we don't care about the rest of them.
Yep.
But we did skip over the newsreels.
And Stan Lee's cameo of superheroes aren't real.
Superheroes in New York? Give me a break.
I love that cameo.
Yeah, it's hilarious considering what he does for a living.
Yes. Well, oh, really? I wonder what he does for a living.
Yeah.
I still think I like the Thor one the best of Phase 1, but I love this one also.
Also, the newsreels pretty much give a flash of all the issues that can't, like, to be covered later. By
like the fact that New York was just destroyed.
Yeah, and the fact that people are arguing, like, isn't this their fault? Like, this was their battle and they just left us to deal with the mess, which I think is really funny since they just came and, like, saved everyone from this invasion. But...
well, they think they also caused it, which is not entirely true and wrong, since Thor and Loki's scuffle in their movie is what caused it in this movie.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, this really was a scuffle between brothers.
Though it's also, like, are you going to blame... if you have a friend and someone comes and murders him because he loves the woman that he married or something... are you going to blame the friend that this dude came in and slaughtered, like, these people?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it is to get back at Thor, but it's completely Loki's own actions that did all of it.
I agree, but think of it from their perspective of they don't really know what the hell went on. All they know is crazy aliens and superpowered people were fighting in New York and it was bad. And the Hulk did a ton of damage to the city himself.
True. Yeah.
So a few other little things about the end. Like we mentioned before, Thor and Loki use the Tesseract to get back to Asgard, which is a little odd, but it makes sense since they know about it more. Bruce Banner goes off with Tony, which is kind of weird because, for one, Betty Ross is never mentioned, even though all the other love interests are at least mentioned, except for Peggy Carter, I think, but that doesn't really matter since that was so long ago. And also, he would probably have to go on the run again?
I thought he did.
I don't think he goes on the run after this movie, even though he probably would have. It's a little weird. It's not really explained. He just is there in later movies.
Now that you're saying this, I don't remember where Bruce ended in this movie.
He just drove off with Tony and started doing science in their building. Because Tony's like, come to the Stark Tower. We have so much science. We can be friends.
Okay.
I feel like... I like Tony and Bruce Banner together in all of their interactions. Science bros!
We also get the last line of the movie being the World Security Council, like, you don't understand what you've started letting the Avengers loose on this world. They're dangerous. And Fury says, they are. And now the whole world knows it. And every world knows it. which, I mean, it seems kind of strange to me that the World Security Council is so against the Avengers when they just saved everything.
They don't think they're reliable, which is kind of reasonable because it took them this much chaos to get them to work together once. But
That's
and
fair.
it's a little bit of a stretch to assume they'll perfectly assemble randomly again, since Shield isn't keeping an eye on them more.
I guess.
I don't know. It's really weird. Everything with the Security Council is weird.
Yeah, it is.
But shall we talk about the other after credits scene other than the shawarma one?
Yes, we should.
The big bad behind all of this was Thanos all along.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. He just sat there menacingly in his chair and then didn't hunt Loki down.
And in 10 years, maybe you'll eventually meet him. But there are a few other subtleties to the scene that I did want to mention.
Yeah, of course.
Because the minion dude is like, humans are not the cowering wretches we were promised. To challenge them is to court death. And that's when you see Thanos and he smiles. Because for those of you who don't know, Thanos in the comics is trying to court death because he's in love with death.
Indeed.
So it was a fun little nod to that.
Of course. So, Trey, do you think you're ready to rate this movie?
I do.
All right. I will explain our rating system very quickly. We use a tier system. So, an F is a movie that's horrible trash and should never have been made. D is a movie that's bad and is kind of embarrassing. C, it's okay, it's fine, whatever. B, it's a good solid film. A, it's a great movie. A+, it's an amazing movie, just shy of perfect, that's why it's A+. And then S, super, perfect, amazing, as good as a movie can get. So, Trey, what would you rate The Avengers?
Well, I think this movie is a good, successful team-up movie that accomplishes what it set out to do. It's a fun watch, whilst not having a terribly groundbreaking story. So I would give it an A.
Yeah, so when I first saw this movie, I probably would have rated it higher. But having seen the potential of the Avengers working together in later movies, and because of the major story flaws in this movie, it just being fun and cool and having great action is definitely not enough to make up for the shallow plot. So I will also give it an A.
It almost sounded like you were going lower there for a second.
I was thinking so. Honestly, I was just shifting between anywhere from B to A+ at that moment. It definitely is great. It is the first universe movie, and it is so good. Seeing every other universe that this movie started a trend in the entire movie industry, and no other company has come close to doing this good of a job of bringing characters from all different franchises together. Everyone has tried it, and Marvel has perfected it. And although this movie may not stand up to their current movies, it's what made their current movies what they are and made their universe so incredible. This movie will go down in the history books forever as one of the most groundbreaking and revolutionary movies of the industry.
So are you giving it an A because of its context of, like, being revolutionizing the industry?
I love the character interactions, and I love the action, and I love the comedy, which is why I'm going to give it an A. It's great. It's so fun to watch, but I'm not going to give it a higher rating because the story is just flawed in so many ways I don't like. Basically, everything with the heroes I like, everything with the villains I don't. And the villains aren't there enough because aren't that big of a part of this movie other than to be fought in the end, because this whole movie is about the Avengers getting together, and that's what I like about this movie.
You don't like Loki's ominous presence as a villain?
No. This is like of all the movies Loki is in, this is one of the weakest.
Interesting.
I think this is Loki's weakest performance because it doesn't feel right. He's just all disheveled and crazy and like not crazy in a ooh I'm crazy and mischievous. It's like nah, he's just going mad and is out of control and doesn't know what he's doing.
I think the logic of his character is definitely incredibly flawed in this movie, but I also think his ominous presence and scariness as a villain is at its ultimate heights in this movie. So that I think gives him points for being like a good villain.
Well, since he doesn't have that much direct combat with any of the heroes, and when he does, it's against the Hulk who beats the crap out of him, Thor and Iron Man who captures him super easily, even though Loki was trying to be captured. Although he's ominous in regards to humans and humanity, he isn't that impressive against the heroes. Like, he's only playing mind games. He's never a physically intimidating presence. So, I don't know. It just doesn't really do it for me. It doesn't really feel like good Loki to me. Like, the scene with him and Black Widow is the closest we get to the mischievous, devious nature of Loki that he is shown in other movies, and it just didn't do it for me here.
He's definitely a much more direct villain than a mischievous Loki or mischievous planner that Loki is known for.
Yeah, he always just felt a little bit off to me in this movie. And this is one of the things that didn't age well with me. And I think I'm very biased after just seeing Ragnarok and loving his performance in that movie.
Really?
Yeah. We can't really talk about that now.
Yeah, we can't, but all right.
So I guess that about wraps it up, right, Trey? Is there anything we're missing?
I don't think so. So if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Marvelous MCU. You can search us on Instagram at Marvelous MCU Podcast, and you can send us an email to marvelousmcupodcast@gmail.com.
And wherever you're listening, whether it's iTunes or Google or YouTube, please like, rate, give us a message. We might read it on the podcast. Anything you can do to help spread the word of the podcast would be a huge help to us, as we're still a new podcast and everything helps to spread the word. So I hope you enjoyed our episode on the Avengers.
So thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time for our podcast on all of Phase 1 and the intricate details between all of the movies and characters and stuff. We'll be covering them all.
We're going to talk about your favorite heroes, favorite villains, favorite movies, and everything you love about each of the movies individually and together.
So we hope to see you next time.